The peasant watches a YouTube video
Wait a minute. Who are you?
and gets inspired to finally get onto his self-improvement. He's gonna start with the gym. He heads in there the first day, guns blazing, does 4 hours of every exercise he can think of. Day 3 he heads in again, does 2 hours of a workout. Day 4 he heads back into the gym and does 1 hour. And day 5 he does 30 minutes. His motivation continues to fizzle out, and by day 12 he's not doing anything at all, back to living the same life he lived before he started. But here comes the king, and felt the very same inspiration. He also headed into the gym and spent hours upon hours at the beginning, but he knew he couldn't keep this up forever. Eventually, his motivation also waned. But a year later,
2 hours later.
he emerged from the gym for the 300th time, shredded as ever. So what was the difference between the peasant and the king? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about in today's video. So let's jump right into it. Now look, if you just want the short version, the gist of the entire video is use your motivation in the beginning to fuel you, but understand that that's not sustainable, and use a more reasonable plan for the long term. So look, if that's all you wanted to know, that is the point of the video. You can click off.
Oi, don't say that. That's not true. That's not true.
But I'm going to be diving into the details now, the nuances of all this, and I encourage you to stick around so you can really get this point and use it in your life. So there are really 2 types of people that we talk about when it comes to achieving goals. The first is very common. This is the one that you all know. This is the one that you have probably been many times in your life. It's the person that gets extremely excited about the goal they have in mind. They start doing everything they can to achieve this goal, and they're going really, really hard at the beginning, and then 1 week goes by, and then 2 weeks goes by, and they're kind of doing it less and less and less until they're not doing it all together. They quit. This is obviously a horrible situation to be in. Now the second person, you have heard of them. They're much more rare. You might be this person. You likely are in some areas of your life, but you likely struggle to be them in all areas. And this is the person that instead of firing out of the gate with this extreme motivation, they just take it slower, step by step, and over time they eventually accomplish their goals. They achieve everything they set out to do because they don't try to do too much, and they keep it sustainable. Now, if you only have the choice of these 2 people, obviously you want to be the latter. It's better to achieve the goal at some point than to never achieve it. But I'm here today to tell you that there's actually a third person, the king, and you should aspire to be him. What the king does is takes full advantage of the motivation. So when he feels inspired, he feels the motivation, and he's ready to shoot out of a cannon, he allows himself to do that. But he understands from the beginning that all of this effort that he's putting in is absolutely unsustainable. And so he creates a plan.
And the best part of this plan is, no one can stop me.
That is more similar to that second person, that once the motivation starts to wane, he can fall back to this plan and start to take the baby steps, the incremental steps that are actually sustainable long term. But here's the best part. He's going to get there to his goals way faster than the second person who only does the baby steps. Why? Because he is using that fuel, those times when he gets that extreme motivation. These are powerful moments in our lives. I don't understand why this is never talked about. I encourage you to use those times to your advantage. When you feel so inspired to do something, take full advantage of that. If you want to work 10 hours on your side project today, go for it, because you are feeling great, you are feeling inspired, you are ready to get the work done. Why would you sleep on that motivation and waste it? So this is something that the king understands, and I encourage you to be like the king.
What is this, Mindy?
Your crown?
And what does this crown do?
Covers your bald spot.
Now you might be saying to yourself, if you're somebody that's already started to achieve some goals, you probably haven't heard to use this before, and you might be kicking against this, not wanting to do it and saying, that's not gonna last, you're gonna burn out. And honestly, you're right. You 100% will burn out if you don't go in with the right mindset and correct plan. So let's dive into each of those. Let's start with the plan. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna be like the second person in the story, the one that is the tortoise in the race and they slowly, step by step, achieve their goals. You're going to plan like that person. Create a sustainable plan that you can actually follow. Simple steps, 2 to 3 critical tasks every single day that get you closer to your goals. And these are specific and actionable steps that you can take, and they're very tangible. You actually put it on a piece of paper what you're going to do. So that's the very first thing you do. You create a reasonable plan, something that you actually can sustain long term, that you won't really burn out on. And of course, you're still gonna take proper rest even on this sustainable plan, but the point is that you can mostly follow it day to day, and eventually you will achieve the goal. Now let's discuss the mindset portion. So this is extremely important. You need to approach this period of motivation understanding that there's no way that you can keep this up long term. Go into the situation already knowing that and saying, look, I feel very motivated right now. I really want to hit this hard, and I'm going to. But I know that I can't expect myself to keep this up in the long run. And in this way, when you start to feel like you're burning out, you know that that is a normal feeling. See, the first person, here's what happens to the first person. Remember, the first person is like the hare in the race, right? They fire out of the cannon, and then they get tired, and then they get demotivated, and then they quit. But where they go wrong is that they don't understand that it was actually not normal for them to get as much done as they were in the beginning. Motivation is a very strong, raw emotion, and it's something that can push you way past your normal limits. But they start to convince themselves that that's what they need to do every single day, and in the back of their mind, they know there's no way they're gonna be able to actually do that, and it starts to really demotivate them. And when they're not showing up like they were at the beginning, they start to get depressed. It's a really negative mental headspace, and then they can't continue, they quit altogether. But with this plan, you're avoiding that crash because you're expecting that crash. And so what you want to start to do is actually to deload. And so when you start to feel tired, go down to a little more reasonable plan. When you start to feel even tired still, go down to a more reasonable plan until you're at the actual sustainable plan that you do think you can keep up every day. And look, it's also 100% okay to take a complete rest. What I'll actually often do is use my period of motivation to explode in the beginning and then take a calculated rest day where I just completely don't do anything in order to reach that goal. And I know that I'm gonna take that day, and I plan that day out, and I allow myself to take a breath, and then I start with the more reasonable plan the following day. And what happens here is I completely skip that depressed state because I know for a fact I'm not gonna be able to hit the gym for 4 hours. That is not even something that you should be doing in the first place, but a lot of people, when they're first getting going, they do something crazy like that, and they think that that's what they should be doing day to day. So with this plan, you're already allowing yourself to say it's completely okay.
It's okay, fish. It's okay.
That I'm not going to the gym for 4 hours every single day or working on my side project for 10 hours straight every single day. And when you go in with that mindset, you won't actually crash like the first person to end up quitting. What you'll do is you'll take a break, you'll reset, and then you'll be able to tackle it in a really strong way with that slower plan that's gonna get you there over time. And the beauty here is that motivation, just like it wanes eventually, it also comes back. You might watch another video that inspires you or something like that, and all of a sudden you're back to that exploding out of a cannon, and then you just follow this process again. You know exactly, hey, I can't sustain this forever, but I feel amazing right now. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do my second session of cardio. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna work on that side project for an extra 3 hours tonight because I feel so motivated to do that. But look, I also know that that means I'm gonna have to take a proper break after this, and then I'm gonna get back to it with my more sustainable plan. Or I'm gonna deload back down to my more sustainable plan. Either way is completely fine. But the point is that if you allow yourself to use that motivation, this is actually gonna put you ahead of the second person, the one that they will achieve their goals over time. So look, if you have to choose between the two extremes, 100%, go with the slow, steady route, you will get there. but I don't understand why we are not taking advantage of this motivation. If you can start to use that fuel, there's pretty much nothing like it, and you will just reach your goals a lot faster, especially if you couple it with these breaks that we're talking about. And the other amazing thing about this is that sometimes you don't even realize that the slow and steady plan that you create for yourself was actually a bit too conservative. And so when you do take full advantage of this motivation and you're doing all this crazy work, sometimes it actually lets you readjust your slow, steady plan and do a bit more than you thought you could. You say, okay, I can't do everything like I was doing in that period of motivation, that 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, but I can actually do a little more than I thought I could. And you brings your baseline up so that your slow and steady becomes even faster than it originally was. And so I hope that makes complete sense to you, and I hope that you're able to understand that it is completely okay. Like, you don't have to listen completely to these productivity gurus that are telling you don't, go out too fast, you're gonna burn out over time. I mean, they are technically right when they say that, but that's because they're not considering the fact that you can still use that fuel and then level yourself back down to something that is more sustainable. And so I really encourage you to use this in your daily life. I challenge you to do so. So first start with creating your plan that is sustainable, then allow your motivation to take over. Go for it. Do all that crazy hard work when you're in the zone and your mind is ready to tackle it. But understand that you're not going to be able to keep that up, and allow yourself to level it down over time, or take a complete rest and get back with the more sustainable plan. If this video helped you out, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you in the family, and remember to always put the work in. From there, leave it in the hands of the one true king. Stay kingly.